This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Let's go. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, folks. Friday afternoon, Winnipeg Jets on to the second round, still awaiting their second round opponent. We'll get to that, last night's action in the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and much more coming up today. Geoff Kirbyson is going to pop by. We'll talk Stanley Cup Playoffs with Marty, Biron, Josh Morrissey's actually coming up with Kenny and Rennie a little bit later on this afternoon. So Ken's going to pop by, tee that up, what the boys are doing after we're finished this afternoon on YouTube. And for everybody that entered our Little Brown Jug contest on Instagram, stick around, end of the show. The biggest Winnipeg Sports Talk Marble Race ever, for another gift cert for the new online store at Little Brown Jug. Great to have everybody with us. We, of course, are brought to you by our friends at Not Autocorp, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Little Brown Jug Brewing, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend Country Club, Cool Bet, and Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. And speaking of Aikens, shout out to my guy Elliot, who is with us today. A few folks off at Aikens tuning in live today. Great to see everyone there, and cannot wait to get out and see you guys a little bit later on this year. As I mentioned, Geoff Kirbyson, and this is funny having Kirb on. Kirb's an old friend. He, of course, has written a couple books on the Winnipeg Jets, including Broken Ribs and Popcorn, which details the Jets in the 80s being the best team not to win the Stanley Cup. And a big part of that was being haunted in the playoffs by the Edmonton Oilers. And Kirb had said, hey, Jets Oilers, why don't you bring me on? And to be honest, I was just too freaked out about the history to have Kirb on and talk about the Jets Oilers history while the series was going on. But now that it's ended the way that it did, we'll talk to Kirb a little bit about the book, a little bit the historical significance, and for younger fans, what maybe fans of our ilk and generation went through with the nightmares building up from all those series losses to Edmonton, and why this one this week was just so special for the Winnipeg Jets. Not to mention the fact that they're in the final 8 and still playing for the Stanley Cup. What's up, everybody? Great to see everybody in the chat today, and great to see my good pal Michael Remis join me in on the program. Remo, what's going on? How are you?
Hold on, I'm bringing myself in.
Oh, another expert transition. Oh, wow.
There we go. Feeling good. Actually, speaking of Little Brown Jug, I did just put in an order of it for myself, so that's a plus.
Beautiful. Did you use the new? You used the new website? I take.
I used their website. Super easy. So see, it says same day delivery, so right in time for the weekend. So I think you have until 2 if you want to get that. Anyone in chat. So it was pretty reasonable. But, yeah, feeling good. I watched some great hockey games last night. We can get to the Leafs-Habs with an incredible finish. And, of course, we had another overtime game. And I want to give a shout-out to you because before the third period started, you tweeted out, I'm live betting Canes, Preds. Who's with me? And you're like, hey, if I lose, we get a Game 7. Who cares? I was like, you know what? I saw the tweet just in time. I'm like, sure, let's do it. And I hopped on. What do you know? Hurt Carolina. Had all the pressure in the third period, tied it, and then won it pretty quick in overtime. Didn't have to sit through any triple OTs. So that was a fun night of hockey last night.
Yeah, no, it certainly was a double dose of overtime. Man, this first round has just been phenomenal with the amount of OTs that we've had. It's surprising that it doesn't look. We'll definitely have a Game 7. We have one tonight. We'll talk about that coming up. Potential for another Game 7 if the Habs can win in front of 2,500 fans in Montreal on Saturday night. But whoever makes it out of that Toronto Habs series, of course, will be the opponent for the Winnipeg Jets coming up. But yeah, as far as that, the bet last night went, I was getting ready for the lock shop today and going through a bunch of weird niche sports for the wide world of wagering, which is always a lot of fun. And, was watching the game and realized that, Canes down one. I've been on them throughout this series and got burned a couple times with the games earlier in Nashville. And I figured with that sort of a number, I think there's absolutely a good chance that they can come back, get it to overtime and win. So we went on it. And as you mentioned, you know what? The worst thing, the worst case scenario is you lose the bet, but you do get a game 7. And then that's just another opportunity to chase it and get it back if we didn't win. Anyways, it worked out well. Gave a little extra scratch to get into the weekend. And, of course, we now do have a couple more series lines that have just been put up, as well as updated Stanley Cup odds at coolbet.com. We'll get to those a little bit later on. What a wild game between the Habs and Leafs last night, Reem. It looked like the Habs were going to be rolling up 3-0. Big first period by former Jet Yoel Armia, the artist formerly known as Joel. Couple goals. But, credit to the Leafs for bouncing back, and 2 third-period goals by Jake Muzzin, of all people, put into OT, and you could really feel the nerves of the Canadiens going into OT. But luckily, we talk about free pizzas, and then there's what Alex Galchenyuk served up last night in OT. A 2-on-0. You texted me about the 2-on-0. I was outside coming back in, and I'm like, wait a sec, it's over already? What happened? A 2-on-0? Like, are they playing regular season 3-on-3 rules or something?
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen? But no, it was just an incredibly ill-timed pass to the wrong spot that sprung the 2 young stars of the Habs, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, tic-tac-toe in the net, 3-2 in the series. And now the Habs get to come home, Reem, and we're going to see fans in a Canadian building for the first time in over a year Saturday night.
Yeah, maybe at some point during the show I'll pull up like Ticketmaster and we can see what's going for in the secondary ticket market, because last night I saw 1,400 or so for like nosebleed tickets. And we'll see. And I also saw that they're not serving food or drinks there because you have to keep your mask on at all times. So people still wanting to pay a lot of money for a playoff game, a first round series playoff game. This isn't like the cup final or even the conference final. That's obscene. But as far as that game goes, I was watching it and I was like, oh, Jake Muzzin. First of all, that point shot, huge blast. We know he has a bomb, but that second one, that was a nice tip there. And overtime, I was like, okay, the Leafs could complete the comeback. I was kind of laughing when they were down. I texted you, actually, down 3. I'm like, Leafs, LOL. And then when it went to overtime, you jinxed it. And then we had the 2-on-0 started at their own blue line, which that is just I was laughing. Just, I feel bad, for the players involved, of course. But for Leaf fans, and especially we've seen a lot of them in here. I don't know how many are in there right now.
No, they're not coming in today. They were hot and heavy the last few days when they were all ready to move on to round 2, thinking that the series was over. Was talking to Pat Gregoire from Coolbet a little earlier today for the Lock Shop, and the callers are a little tighter. I mean, at the end of the day, when you have so much history and so much disappointment and 3-1 leads in series and 3-1 leads or 4-1 leads in game 7s, it ain't over until it's over, and it's not over right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'll tell you what, if the Habs do win on Saturday night, the amount of pressure on the Toronto Maple Leafs, I still expect them to win this series. Frankly, I think they'll win on Saturday. Man, if it does go to a game 7 after being up 3-1, holy smokes, is there going to be even more pressure on the Toronto Maple Leafs, because a loss to the Habs in round 1 after being up 3-1 would be an absolutely colossal failure for a team that has been assumed as the team that will be coming out of the North Division for the better part of the year by a lot of the hockey populace.
It's funny, the last couple of days, or the Leafs fans in here have been like, okay, Leafs against the Jets, it's happening. And then other people responded, hey, they haven't won anything yet. And everyone was assuming they would win last night. And to come back, crawl back down 3-0 to tie it, and then to lose like that in overtime, where you could just see that 2-on-0 literally coming from a mile away. Not literally a mile away, but, 3/4 of the ice, 2-on-0 with Suzuki and Caulfield. And, when you have that much time, sometimes you see players panic, not make the right pass. And they executed that one to perfection. And Suzuki hit that 1-T in the back of the net, and I just laughed because that's just a horrible way to end a game where you come back, you're down 3-0, and then you give up a 2-on-0, and not 3-on-3 overtime. Those happen pretty frequently, but on 5-on-5, brutal way for Galchenyuk.
Well, just think about how much overtime we just watched between the Jets and Oilers, and there was nothing even remotely close to a 2-on-0 at any point in that. So, hey, what is up, Cody Karen? Into the super chat. Always put off work to listen to the show. Cody, that's what we love to hear. Hey, if you do get busy at work, you can always watch it on the playback a little later on. You can listen to the podcast. But we definitely appreciate you being with us live, and we certainly appreciate you hitting us up on the super chat. Thanks so much. And listen, if there was ever a time maybe to mail it in, it's a Friday afternoon heading into the weekend. Now, again, I have no idea what days are weekends and what aren't weekends anymore, because essentially there's two types of days: work days and non-work days. We haven't had many non-work days lately with the Jets, and it's game day or not game day. But you know what, Reem, this has been great, I think, for fans, but especially the team. Listen, I think if the series started on Sunday night, Jets would have been ready for it and would have benefited from this rest. But man, to get something like a week off while Toronto has to grind out this series against the Habs, you would hope could be a nice advantage or a bonus for the Jets going in, as long as they do start well in game number one. There's always that rest versus rust conversation. But I think, considering what the ultimate goal is to win the Stanley Cup, only playing 4 games in the first round and getting this extra rest could be invaluable for a team like Winnipeg going up against the Leafs or Habs in the next round.
Yeah, this might be the longest break they've had in a long time. And especially, I was thinking last night, for a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, we don't know if he came back, maybe a bit early, but just that extra week. I mean, obviously, he came back. We didn't even talk about it yesterday. He came back and scored the overtime winner in the game, his first game back. So he's clearly fine, but just the rest for everyone. I mean, you heard Scheifele say he slept for 11 hours, not the night they won, but the next night. And these players are resting up. And I just remember, maybe a little fatigue setting in 2018 after that series versus Nashville when they went up against Vegas, and where Marc-Andre Fleury is still giving Jets fans nightmares when you see what he's doing with Vegas. So I think, I think maybe you'll see a bit of rust to start, but I think with the way the Stanley Cup Playoffs is, rest is definitely good. And the way the season has been as well. It's, as Paul Maurice would say, it's definitely been a grinder.
No doubt about that. Built for the grinder. Hey, let's give a shout out to some folks that are with us right now. Tracy Kraniak, always with us. Hi, Trace. Chuck Winnipeg, Troy Stevens. Nicole J says, happy Friday, Jets fans. Jed L. Tom's here. Jeff Kazabilas, Sandy G, Mitch Z as well. Good old James Robinson's always with us. And hey, there's our winner from yesterday. Well, the second place winner after you, in fact, were the winner. Place. But he was the prize winner, Winnipeg Jets 280. And as I mentioned right off the top, Reem, we are locked and loaded for the biggest marble race ever at the end of the program, with everyone that entered the other Little Brown Jug contest we did through our Instagram. And by the way, if you're not following us on Instagram, what are you waiting for? At Sports Talk WPG. And as always, if you're new, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the pod. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. A ton of other folks. Oh, Corey Perry's shin pad has has entered the chat. The Godfather, there's Mitch, WHT, Paul Adette's with us. Colin Games, great to see you. Tricky Dick, Paul Adette, Rob Mahoney. A lot of the regs in with us. And of course, Cynthia Betancourt. Cynthia was so close yesterday, leading the marble race most of the way before an unfortunate over the wall at the end. It ended with a DQ, and then Remis somehow. What characters we've had. Gregory wins last week. You win. I can't imagine what it's going to be. We've got over 100 people in today's marble race from the entries on Instagram, so it is going to be massive.
And Paul Odette writes in chat, what's a marble race? Well, stay tuned for the end, maybe around
Paul.
After 2:30, we will be having the race for the $30 gift card to Little Brown Jug. So stay tuned. And
Paul, you're here every day. I don't know how you could have possibly missed it. I mean, these have been a couple of the highlights of the entire stream the last couple of days. Anyways, it will be at the end. It'll be the last thing we do after we get to the Cool Bet lines and have our guests, and it will be fun. And as I said, normally we have Kenny or Rennie on Thursday. But today, we had great conversation with Rennie yesterday. But Ken's going to pop on a little later on. We'll just talk a little bit of playoffs, get his thoughts on what happened last night, Game 7 tonight between Vegas and Minnesota, and tee up a little combo playoff preview and chat with Josh Morrissey coming up today at 3 o'clock. And you know what? While I'll mention this before I forget. This afternoon, after we're done on Winnipeg Sports Talk, I'll be going and doing a 3-hour shift, as I often do, on Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. But for you Jet fans, 4:30 Winnipeg time, we'll have Adam Lowry of the Winnipeg Jets joining us live there. So I'll tweet out a link if you want to check us out a little bit later on. But that's 4:30 Winnipeg time for Adam Lowry.
I got an email that my Little Brown Jug is out for delivery. You think they'll bring it to me during the show? Should I take the camera to the door when I go answer it?
Yes. If you can do that, that would be. Listen, that might be the greatest. This just worked out this way. We didn't plan it this way, but this could be one of the great bonuses of a sponsor we've ever done. A live delivery after you've ordered at their amazing new online site. Easier than ever to order delicious Little Brown Jug suds.
I want to say this, actually, Huss. Before we bring in Geoff, we got to get to that Carolina-Nashville game. I don't know about you, but I have Creed stuck in my head today, and I was listening to their greatest hits, and I just got I got chills. And what we're talking about is Nashville Predators had Scott Stapp and Creed perform at intermission during the game. Wasn't quite their epic, the definition of epic performance at that Thanksgiving NFL game everyone's seen on YouTube with the with the gymnasts and the acrobats.
The Cowboys game, that's right.
But seeing, I haven't seen too much live music in a long time. But seeing Creed at a Predator, I thought Preds were for sure winning. But I guess if you're anti-Creed, you can say Creed.
That's an all-time Winnipeg Sports Talk quote. I saw Creed last night at the Predators game, and I got chills.
I got chills from watching that. And I had to put on Arms Wide Open, Higher. They had some My Sad. They have some good songs, man. I think I hated them when they came out, but now that it's 20 years later, I now have a real deep appreciation for Creed.
Well, speaking of Creed, and maybe you can get this up while we talk about it. So the Canes end the Predators season and then eviscerated them on social media with another banner gag. A banner Photoshop, if you will, but this one put it this way, it was savage enough that the Nashville Predators have now blocked the Carolina Hurricanes on Twitter, and the reason was this tweet that we'll get up in just a second here. And of course, the Jets did have some fun, or many Jet fans did have some fun with the banners that they were raising a little earlier, and here it is today. Taylor Lewan, who's the Titans offensive lineman, crushed a beer, did a couple of those in a catfish. Creed played during intermission. Loudest house in the National Hockey League, of course, giving themselves the Barry Horowitz, claiming that the Carolina Hurricanes are the loudest crowd. But I don't know how you bounce back from this one. And apparently neither did the Preds because they just simply blocked the Canes.
Yeah, this is what was the original banner Nashville put up that everyone was laughing at them about? They put up some banners like playoff participant or something.
Yeah. It was qualified for playoffs, second in the Central Division.
So it was really qualified. Yeah. So this is a well done troll job, and Nashville zero response. Talk about kicking a team when they're down. I don't know. Carolina social media has taken it to another level and chirping another team. And Nashville had no response except to block Carolina, which I think is acceptable here.
Now that the Oilers series is over, speaking of social media, I'm going to bring something up that was very out of character for the Winnipeg Jets. And, the Jets they've got their culture. They do things in a certain way. And let's just say that, when it comes to social media, they're not as out there as some of the other teams like we've just seen, which was why after game one, it was so stunning to see Jets social media put up that tweet of Neil Pionk all over Connor McDavid, just with simply the tag rent free. And you want to talk about poking the bear. I thought that it was just so out of character for Jets social media to do that. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I was totally here for it, but I was also nervous that it would come back to bite them. Yeah, there it is if you're looking at this right now. I don't know about you, Reem. I was stunned to see that. And listen, I liked it. But again, it was only after game one. I was honestly a little nervous that might end up being a freezing cold take. And there hasn't been many of those things that the Jets have put out there beforehand. But sure enough, they were right. It didn't bite them. And I think that was maybe a little bit, it shows the confidence that the Jets had, that maybe he was even eking out to the social media part of the organization.
This could have ended very badly. This was a risk. I saw that and I was like, I don't know, guys. Like, sure you want to do that here? This is Connor McDavid we're talking about. And I mean, I like Neil Pionk, but he's not. I mean, obviously we should start thinking of him as one of the best defensemen in the league. I mean, especially when you look at how he performed points wise. But stop having Connor McDavid and saying rent free for any defenseman against Connor McDavid. That was bold. So
hey, listen, I'm here for it. I hope they get a little cockier, especially considering who the opponent will be next round, whether it's the Habs or whether it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. But anyways, it worked out well. I think everyone, we enjoyed it now a lot more now that the Edmonton Oilers have been put in the rearview mirror and the Jets are getting ready going forward. And one more thing about social media. I don't know, guys, we're kind of on a bit of a roll. I tweeted this out last night, and you can check my feed at Hustlerama. I'm not sure whether we have the rights to play it, so we won't do it because of YouTube. We don't want a DCMA. But Rod Brind'Amour, one of the things the Canes do so well, probably better than anybody in the league, is engage their fans through social media with some of the best behind-the-scenes footage and coverage you will get anywhere. And last night, after beating the Preds, Rod Brind'Amour, who does, a hell of a speech, addressed the team, talked to them about the win, and had a phone in his hand. But he talked about how they're a family, all those sort of cliches about being together and being a family. And he had his dad on speakerphone, and it was his dad's birthday, and the entire team, after winning Game 6 and eliminating the Predators, sang his dad happy birthday. Just a really, really cool moment. And, I tweeted that out, and Remis, I couldn't help but think, we heard from Paul Stastny, we heard from Blake Wheeler about the speech that Paul Maurice gave before Stastny's 1,000th game as they were trying to get out of that slump, and it was referred to as a Winston Churchill type speech. Anyone that's played for Maurice has talked about how incredible his speeches are. Just for once, I would love to be a fly on the wall, if you were, and see some of that stuff, because we've seen how powerful the words of Rod Brind'Amour are motivating his Carolina Hurricanes. But considering everything we've heard about Paul Maurice, what a treat that would be to get on the inside to hear a speech or two from the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, we haven't seen too much of that. I know the NHL did some behind-the-scenes stuff before, but as far as the Jets dressing room goes, we don't really see that stuff like we've seen with some other teams. We just Carolina. That video with Brind'Amour, and I saw a nice tweet from Jamal Mayers, former NHLer, who said, "This is how you motivate players now in 2021. You're not motivating with fear. You want to bring everyone together and feel like a family." And Rod Brind'Amour certainly done that in Carolina. And I guess we'll see where he lands next. But Carolina was my pick to win the cup before my bracket. We have it on the NHL website, so I'm pulling for him. I was feeling kind of when they were down 3-2 there in Game 6.
Yeah, my bracket's looking great except for the East. I had picked Sid versus Ovi, and they're both have tee times right now. It's Islanders Boston, but everything else is looking good. I need Vegas.
I got to be honest. I think I picked every series correct so far, except the games not so much, but except for the Jets series.
You took the Islanders?
Yeah, I think I did actually. I'm pretty sure I took the Islanders and I took Vegas in 7, but I guess they're at home. But I did have Vegas in 7, but every other one I have nailed. So watch out for me.
On Monday, assuming, well, I guess we could still have a game 7 between the Habs and Leafs, but we'll do maybe a little bit of a group update on the NHL bracket challenge for everyone that did that. So listen, lots coming up. Ken Wiebe, towards the end of the program, he'll tee up. Kenny and Randy, we've got a special little edition coming after Winnipeg Sports Talk this afternoon if you're watching on YouTube. Marty Biron going to join us in about 20-25 minutes or so, and Geoff Kirbyson coming up in just a second. Before we do that, I want to give a big shout out to first ever sponsor on Winnipeg Sports Talk, Not AutoCorp. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? Pop down to Waverly and McGillivray or check them out online with all the services. Not only do they have an incredible variety of vehicles, including the most Teslas in the city, Red Seal technicians, body shop, literally one stop for all of your needs. And if you're looking to upgrade your vehicle, they'll help you consign your present vehicle too. So find out more, Waverly and McGillivray, or contact them online at not.ca. And of course, the whiteout is here, although we're not in, but whiteout gear is going quickly. Royal Sports, your headquarters for all things Winnipeg Jets, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and frankly, NHL and all other licensed merchandise. And right now, free car flags with white jerseys or the purchase of a Yeti Winnipeg Jets mug. I think you can see those at the bottom. They're an official Yeti dealer. Great camping equipment as well. Fitness, bikes, they have it all. Pop down this weekend. Get ready for round 2 at Royal Sports and get yourself a free Jets car flag with that promotion. Find out more and give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina. And of course, Boston Pizza, been with us since day one as well. We talked about the pizza flights, my personal favorite. There you can see them. They've also got a pretty insane game day meal with the Meteor Pizza, Spicy Pierogi Pizza, and a case, a 2-for, if you will, of wings. Now, right now, we can't be enjoying each other's company and schooners in the Boston Pizza Lounge, but of course they do deliver, available for takeout, and you can find the menu and much more at bostonpizza.ca. All right, let's welcome in our first guest. He is a longtime friend of the program. He is the author of Broken Ribs and Popcorn, amongst others. It is Geoff Kirbyson. Kirb, what's up? How are you, my friend?
Doing great, thank you. Just I think I finally caught up on my sleep after staying up till whatever time it was on Monday night, and even after the Jets triple overtime win, I was so pumped up I couldn't go to sleep for like another couple hours.
No, yeah, you're not the only one. It was funny talking with Coach Maurice and Scheifele. It wasn't just the fans. I think it was pretty much everyone that was involved in that game had a hard time turning it off, despite the how late it was. Now, full disclosure, we were talking last week about the Oilers Jets. This would be a perfect time to bring you on, talk about the history of the matchup, and partly the superstitious side of me, but also the part that lived through it. I couldn't think of anything more depressing going into an Oilers-Jets series than to rehash the misery that we went through in the 80s, at the same time recognizing one of the great teams of the era never to win the cup. But now that the series is over, we can talk about the historic nature of a sweep over the Edmonton Oilers, Curb, as well as talk about what we all grew up watching. Before we talk about the book and the history of it, thoughts on the series, and as someone that has written so extensively about the history of the Winnipeg Jets and that tough neighborhood, the old Smythe division, I still can't wrap my head around the fact that the Jets disposed of Connor McDavid and the Oilers in 4 straight games.
Well, in many ways, that's the series that was just completed mirrored a lot of the series back in the 80s, because the Jets got swept 3 or 4 straight years, but they were all close games, and there were very few 5-2, 5-1 games. A lot of them there were a lot of, like, there was like 10 or 11 one-goal games in those series. So, and the Jets didn't have the lead for a whole lot in this most recent series. So it was very similar, except for the fact that the Jets came out on the right side of all the bounces this time around, and so it was stressful. even I don't know how you felt, but even up 3-0, because so after the game 3 win, and I went on Twitter and everyone's like, it's over, and I had to respond, listen, you crazies, it's not over. We were there in 1990. We were up 3-1. We thought it was over then, and what happened? It wasn't over. So even though we were up 3-0, and even when we were up early on in game 4, I still super nervous. And it wasn't until probably about a minute or two after Connor's goal that I relaxed, because I was still sitting on the edge of my seat, and it was still kind of hard to believe. Like, it's 1:00 in the morning? Am I awake? Am I dreaming? Because like you, I know on the weekend I kept waking up in the middle of the night going, did they win last night, or did I?
Oh my God, Curb! I mean, honestly, I woke up on Monday. Before game, but like after Ehlers' goal and being up 3-0. And I honestly, the first thing I did was check my phone and pulled up the score app, and Jets 5-4. They came back. They were down 4-1. They won that game. Oh, and Phil Mickelson also won the PGA at 50. Just making sure that we're all clear with what actually happened in the world of sports yesterday. It was something. Let me ask you this, Curb, because we've talked a lot about what the Jets couldn't do back in the 80s and 90s against the Edmonton Oilers. If Connor Hellebuck was with the Jets back then instead of now, do you think we would be talking about an entirely different history between these two clubs?
Absolutely. And to a man, every member of the Jets from those days would say, yeah, they had a great team with Gretzky and Messier and Curry up front, but that didn't matter. You could shut down one of those guys periodically. You could put Doug Smale maybe to shadow Gretzky, but Grant Fuhr was the difference, because he was the guy who was charged with making the last save in the last minute to put the Jets out of their misery, or to knock the Jets out. And Gretzky is on the record as saying that the difference was that they had one Hall of Fame goaltender and an almost Hall of Fame goaltender in Andy Moog. And the Jets just had pretty to really good goaltenders in Daniel Berthiaume and Ryan Hayward and Pokey Reddick, and later on Bob Essenza, although Essenza didn't play in Game 7 in 1990. So goaltending can make the difference. And I know going into this series, people were asking me about it. What were the comparisons? And oh, geez, the Jets don't have a chance. I said, listen, goaltending can be the difference maker in a 7-game series, and we just have to look back at in 1990 when the Jets were up 3-1, but Bob Murdoch kept alternating Essenza.
I'll never get over that. Yeah, let's sit Bob Essenza for Game 7.
Yeah, and the Oilers had Ranford. It was Ranford, and it was his series to win or lose. And the Oilers players like Craig Simpson said to me, as soon as they saw that the Jets were all alternating goaltenders, and Ranford said this too, they knew that they had us, because especially in Game 7, because when you're the man, you know that you're in no matter what. If you're not, he's getting ready. And that plays a big role in a goaltender's confidence.
Yeah, well, Bob Essenza almost had to get ready because Craig Simpson, who you just mentioned, speared Beauregard in the nuts in that game and almost knocked him out of the game, and yet that still didn't take him out of the net. And there was Mud Murdoch just sitting there going, yeah, well, this is the way we've done it all year, so let's roll that way. It made no sense then. 30 plus years later, it still doesn't make any sense now, Curb.
Kurt Keelback told me that he went out for breakfast with the coaching staff on Game 7, the morning of Game 7, and he said, okay, well, who's starting tonight? And Murdoch said Beauregard, and Keelback said, good one. Okay, so seriously, who's starting? No, Beauregard. And then at one point when Murdoch got up to go to the washroom, he asked Claire Drake and Alpo Suonen, listen, guys, like now that he's gone, you could tell me, like, you're seriously wanting to play Beauregard? And they said, yeah, we're playing Beauregard. He's Essenza's more of a flopper, and Beauregard's more stand-up. We think that's the kind of style we need right now, and so we're going with that. And I mentioned that to Essenza, and he said, yeah, they said to me, Steffi's going to play in Game 7. You're going to start Game 1 of the next series. And Essenza said he thought to himself, I'm not sure that Bill Ranford's going to want it to go that way. And of course, it didn't. And Keelback said that he said to the coaches, "You guys might feel that way, but you guys are the only people who feel this way." And the Jet, if you ask any member of the Jets team, they were dumbfounded when they were told that Beauregard was starting. And the other thing is, that in the last half of the season, Beauregard didn't win any games, and the Jets.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, just a small detail for in the playoffs. And the record that virtually all the wins in the down the stretch were by Essenza, and he was their number one goalie. He became the number one goalie during the year, and to not play your number one goalie, that's when that happened. The Oilers looked over and saw it. They knew they had the Jets. The Jets looked over, saw the Oilers looking at them. They knew it. Game 7 was a fait accompli.
Geoff Kirbyson with us. He's the author of Broken Ribs and Popcorn, talking a little Jets-Oilers history, and of course, the big sweep of the Edmonton Oilers in round 1. For those of you wondering, and I know Remis was mentioning, I have no idea. My phone is on silent. I have made sure it's on silent twice, and there's mystery noises coming out of it. So hopefully that will be avoided going soon. Don't really know what to say about that, but I think it was my phone, and yet it is on silent. So we'll see whether that continues. Curb, we've mentioned the book, Broken Ribs and Popcorn. You've done a couple of long reads on the Jets. For folks that maybe hadn't seen the book so far, give a little synopsis of it and how they can pick it up.
Well, this is sort of a sequel to a book I wrote a couple years ago called The Hotline. It starts off with, it's essentially the story of the Jets of the 80s and how they started off as this sad sack outfit that grew out of this fantastic WHA team that won the last AFCO Cup, was stripped of most of its good players like Terry Ruskowski and Kent Nilsson and Kim Claxton, and went through a couple of really, really lean years, including the second year when they had a 30-game winless streak. Let's remember when a couple months ago when Buffalo was winless in 17 games and people were losing their minds. Listen, Buffalo, that's cute. 17 is cute, but you're not taking away our record. Like, come back to us when it's 25. And how the Jets became after they started drafting players like Dave Babich and Dale Hawerchuk, and how they became the best team in the NHL's most offensive era to not win. And their problem was they played in the Smythe division, which was the strongest division in hockey. And there were a number of seasons there where 3 of the top 5 teams in the whole league were in one division, and only one team was getting out. So you had Gretzky and company running up the score in a lot of their games. So they were going to finish first. And there was a big advantage finishing first because because if you finish first, you got to play Los Angeles or Vancouver, and you had the Flames and the Jets beat the tar out of each other in the previous round. And then by the time you'd gone through your relatively easy round, you got to play this beat up team. And the other thing to remember about this, we talked about how close these games were, but the Jets had it was a 16-game winless streak against the Oilers in the playoffs, which is unheard of. And Glenn Sather said to me that you don't see that anymore. But if the Jets had played it in the other division, he expects they would have seen them in the finals a couple times. And the fun part about it was that I got to bring in a tennis story, and that was that in the 80s, Vitas Gerulaitis and Jimmy Connors were two of the top players in the world. But Connors had beaten Gerulaitis 16 times in a row, just like the Oilers had beaten the Jets 16 times in a row. And then in the 17th game, or the 17th match between Connors and Gerulaitis' serve and volley game was working perfectly. His volleys were crisp, his returns were on, and he beat Connors finally after in his 17th game. And then at the press conference afterwards, he had a bottle of champagne there, and he was asked by one of the reporters, "So Vitas, what was the difference today?" And he looked at the guy and he pointed at him and he said, "Nobody beats Vitas Gerulaitis 17 times in a row." And nobody beats the Winnipeg Jets 17 times in a row.
That is exactly right.
And it can be picked up at all bookstores. It's at McNally Robinson. It's at Whodunit, and it's at Chapters.
Now, listen, we do have a copy of the book, and I know you're going to do a trivia question. I think the best way to do for this is, we want you guys all to give Curb a follow as well. So what you're going to want to do is go to Geoff Kirbyson. It's Geoff, Geoff Kirbyson. So give him a follow. And what you're going to want to do is respond to Geoff with the correct answer, and Kirb will pick a winner. But Kirb, what is the Jets trivia question that you have for the Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners today?
Well, I'm going to give you two, and I think that they one is for the best team that the Jets had, and that was the 84-85 team. Unfortunately, it was the best team the Jets had, but it was going up against not just the best team the Oilers ever had, but that 84-85 Oilers team was voted the best team in the history of the NHL.
Period. Ever.
Yeah. And that's not including the 87 team where they got Kent Nilsson. And Kent Nilsson came on and played with Mark Messier and Glenn Anderson on a line that Jim Matheson from the Edmonton Journal said was the fastest line he'd ever seen in hockey. But so I have two questions. So you have to give me the Jets had 6 players who scored more than 30 goals that year. And it was career highs for, I think, all of them. So I'd like to know who the 6 players were, how many goals they scored. I know this will be, people will just be Googling this right away. But also I want to know who was the Jets player who wore number 99.
Oh, listen, I think I could nail both of these right now off the top of my head, but I will not.
Possible. And some of the ones that would be harder would be ruder questions. And this is a family show.
So there you go. The 6 Jets 30 goal scorers from the 84-85 season, and the only Jet ever to wear number 99. Tweet that and follow Geoff Kirbyson at Geoff Kirbyson. And Kirby, you can tweet out the winner afterwards when you get everyone out. And of course, people, Amazon, McNally Robinson, check out the book, Broken Ribs and Popcorn. You can now safely read it. The nightmares have been erased because the Jets bounced the Oilers in 4 straight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Kirby, we got to run, but if you'd like to play us out with a nice tune, feel free to start tickling the ivories. Oh, that's about it.
Oh, I know.
Take her to the kids. Hey, buddy, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it, and enjoy round 2.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Good stuff. There's Geoff Kirbyson. Hit him up on Twitter with those answers. He'll get out a copy of Broken Ribs and Popcorn to one of the correct answers going forward. All right, we got Marty Biron coming up in just a second. Want to give a big shout out to a couple more of our sponsors. The weekend is here. The weather's getting nicer, and that means it is blizzard time. Pop by the Nick and Nicky DQ group, any of their 4 locations, DQ in Niverville, DQ Northgate. Both of those have drive-thrus right now, so you can just scoot through without going in. We've also got the DQ at Polo Park and the DQ on St. Anne's. If you got a birthday or event coming up, nobody does cakes better than Dairy Queen and Nick and Nicky, and you can order it or contact them online on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. So be sure to give them a follow and pop by. Try the Drumstick Blizzard. It's new. I had it this week. It is an 11 out of 10, maybe the best that I have ever had. And of course, our brewing partners, Little Brown Jug. Can't thank them enough for coming on board with us. We've had a great week doing some fun Little Brown Jug promos. We will do the marble race at the end of today for everyone that entered on the Instagram contest. But as you heard earlier, they've relaunched the website. It's easier than ever to order beer. Remis actually just did order beer earlier, and there's the potential for a live Little Brown Jug delivery at some point today to the Winnipeg Sports Talk Command Center over with Michael Remis. So littlebrownjug.ca. And again, if you do want to pick up tomorrow at Shelburdean's Garden Center, they're going to be there from 11 to 4. You can go onto the website, buy what you like, and select pick up at Shelburdean's and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Get your gardening stuff and some cold LBJs to celebrate all the hard work out in the garden. And, of course, our friends at Assiniboia Downs. Live racing is back on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. I have some ground to make up in my betting contest with Michael Remis. But you can you can get your HPI bet account right now and bet on races around the world. I believe late last night, Remo dropped a toonie on an Australian horse race. So Listen, it's 24/7 if you want to get into it, but the time you need to know, 7:20 parade to post, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and 6:45, go to the Assiniboia Downs website for ASD Live with some handicapping tips for those evening's races. All right, let's get back to the show and welcome in our good friend Marty Biron to talk some Stanley Cup playoffs. Marty, what's going on? How are you?
I'm enjoying listening to all the racing action that you guys have going on. I actually have a few horses. My girls ride, but my grandfather rode the Trotters and Pacers with the carts back in the days of the Hippodrome in Montreal and Quebec City. So I love that stuff.
Oh, man, a lot of fun. And obviously right now, unfortunately, we are not able to get out to the track. We're still in a pretty bad spot with the virus here, so everyone's staying home right now. But I will tell you, Marty, I think people, despite how unfortunate the situation is for real life right now, Winnipeggers, Manitobans, and Winnipeg Jet fans feeling pretty good about their hockey team after a 4-game sweep of the Edmonton Oilers. What did you think? How did they do it? And what do you think about the Jets moving on to the second round after what you saw in the first 4?
Very impressive. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck was really good in that 4-game sweep. But, when you think about the weakness of the Jets throughout the season, everybody was saying it's the defense core. They needed to add at the trade deadline, which they didn't do. And I actually thought that DeMello and Morrissey were fantastic against Draisaitl and McDavid. And really, to be honest with you, like after game 1, when the Jets beat the Edmonton Oilers 4-1, it was really a 2-1 hockey game with 2 empty netters. And then the Edmonton Oilers decided, let's put Draisaitl and McDavid together. And I thought that because of the way DeMello and Morrissey played against Draisaitl and McDavid together, that the Edmonton Oilers were going to go away from that, try to generate more offense by separating them again, which they never did. The Oilers just stuck to their 2 big guys on the top line, which was very interesting to me. But the Jets really found a way to play well defensively against McDavid and Draisaitl, and it was the key. I was very impressed by Paul Maurice and his plan. Maurice said, listen, I can come up with 400 game plans to counter McDavid. I don't know if any of them will work. Well, the number 1 plan was Morrissey DeMello, and it did work.
Yeah, and we talked to Maurice 2 days ago on the program, and he had a lot of praise for Mark Scheifele's line. And Marty, if you go back to the regular season, I mean, to be frank, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl ate the Jets' lunch more often than not at the expense of Mark Scheifele and his line. I believe the 5-on-5 scoring in the season when they were head-to-head was 10-2. And, of course, the Oilers had won 6 straight games. Scheifele has never been thought of as an elite defensive player, but, and it did cost maybe a little bit of offense early on, but the commitment that they had, really led by Blake Wheeler on that top line, put together, I think, the best 200-foot performance, if you will, of Scheifele, Connor, and Wheeler that we've seen in a long time, and especially Scheifele, who was singled out by the coach in Game 4 as playing one of the best games he's seen in a long, long time from 55.
Yeah, absolutely. He had a couple of really nice one-timers, but again, the inability for the Edmonton Oilers to adjust. So the first 2 games in Edmonton, you're thinking, okay, the Oilers are going to take advantage of the matchup. They're going to go straight ahead, McDavid against Scheifele, and Scheifele's line did fantastic. So you're thinking, okay, maybe we want to change that up a little bit. And then in the 3rd and 4th game, when the Jets had the matchup advantage being at home, now you saw Scheifele's line really take over. And the addition of Nikolai Ehlers really helped. Now, Ehlers wasn't great in the first period of Game 3, but in the second period, he got himself going. In the third, obviously, with the overtime game-winning goal. And I thought Ehlers really helped solidifying that top 6 group by being part of the lineup. So in Game 1 and 2, I think they snuck it out in Edmonton by winning those 2. But in 3 and 4, the Jets were clearly the better team, in my opinion.
And and the other thing about the return of Ehlers, I mean, it completely changes the look of that second line. I mean, He has been such a driver, and arguably the Jets' best forward for this season. The other part of it, Marty, is that Andrew Kopp's been so versatile, and he's had a career season. But to get Kopp back on the wing with his usual running mates in Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton, and once that happened, we saw midway through Game 3, Paul Maurice switch the matchup to the Lowry-Kopp line, which freed up Scheifele's line a little bit more for a little bit more offense. And, when it comes to a 200-foot line, a checking line in the league, you'd be hard-pressed to find many better than the Lowry line in both ends of the ice.
Yeah, Lowry's line was fantastic. And again, you got to give credit to Paul Maurice for adjusting. It's 4-1, the Oilers, and you have to get something going. Now, I don't think it was really what the Jets did that got him back in the game. It was what Archibald did to Big Logan Stanley and the submarine that ended up costing him a game suspension and a power play for the Jets that scored. I think it was Perreault that scored on that power play goal.
Yeah.
And then after that, you really got the sense that the lines were rolling, and the Lowry line did a great job. It freed up more offense for the Winnipeg Jets. They get themselves back in the game. They win in OT. All of a sudden, you feel like the Jets are in full control of that series, and they did not look back in Game 4. But you know what? Yes, you're right. You have your top six that plays so well. You have that checking line that can go out and play against anybody. You have a fourth line that's eating minutes and really providing you some good support. I think we've said it all along. For the last 2-3 years, the Jets are a well-built team. They just kind of couldn't put it all up together. And their defense was maybe their Achilles heel, especially when they lost Byfuglien and Myers and everybody else. But now, all of a sudden, you know, you put it all together. You're a underdog against the Edmonton Oilers, who really dominated during the regular season, and you overcome that. I think, in my opinion, I mean, the Toronto-Montreal series is not over. They've got a big match, Game 6 on Saturday night. But for me, the Jets were the team that I said, if Toronto's going to have an issue getting through the North Division, it's going to be the Winnipeg Jets in the second round. And right now, we could have that matchup, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Well, and, you know, it doesn't matter what matchup you're talking about. Goaltending is such a big part of it. I don't think there's anyone we love talking about goaltending more than with you. Before we talk about the other series, what did you think of Connor Hellebuyck the season, but especially the way he was trending going into the playoffs and the performance that he delivered for his club with 4 straight wins, 3 of them in overtime?
See, Connor Hellebuyck has a little bit of Carey Price in him, or maybe Carey Price has Connor Hellebuyck in him, whichever way you want to look at it. But when they're calm and they're walking that fine line that they are calm but not nonchalant. If you're nonchalant, the problem is that you kind of take things easy or for granted. Connor Hellebuyck was really calm, even though there was moments where he felt the pressure come in from McDavid, Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and everybody else. He was very calm through it. It really led by leadership right there and showing the rest of your team, I've got this. Don't worry. I'm not swimming in like a fish out of water. I'm not chasing the game. I'm going to let the game come to me. So I thought it was excellent in that way. The rebound control was really good, which allowed or the defense to box out, but it did not allow Edmonton to have second and third opportunities. The Oilers were coming in, one shot, one chance, boom. There's no rebound. That is a big key for Connor Hellebuyck. He's not the fastest and the most athletic goaltender in the National Hockey League. You can point out to guys like Vasilevsky and Fleury that are very athletic, but Hellebuyck, with his rebound control, is able to avoid having to be athletic, and that was a big key in the way he played. So, yeah, there's a little bit of Carey Price, Hellebuyck in their games, and when they're successful, they play very calm.
Yeah, and Maurice has often said that when Hellebuyck is at his best, it isn't spectacular. I believe he referred it as big and boring, and that's a good thing for a goaltender, right? Because it means you're in position and you're handling the shots as they come, and the guys in front of you are probably helping you see them too.
Yeah, and that was the way that I liked to play my game when I was later in my career, is big and boring. Now, I wasn't the most athletic, acrobatic. I was not flexible at all. I work with young kids, goaltenders, and they all want to be Marc-Andre Fleury. They all want to be Andrei Vasilevsky. They all want to be these athletic goaltenders that are super flexible, but maybe your body doesn't allow you to do that. Connor Hellebuyck looks to me like a very stiff goalie. When he goes butterfly, he's not in the splits. His legs are not super wide. He's very compact. He's big, and he takes up the main part of the net. So my son's a 16-year-old goalie, and he's like me. He's stiff. And I said, look at Connor Hellebuyck. The way he plays the game is so efficient that is how goalies like Hellebuyck, goalies like me, goalies like my son or whatnot are going to be able to be successful. So that makes a huge difference when you have somebody to look up to. And Connor Hellebuyck is becoming that guy that can preach for all the non-flexible people out there, boys and girls. They can do the splits. Well, no big deal. You don't have to. You can play a simple, boring game and still be efficient.
Marty Biron is our guest here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, discussing the Jets moving on to round 2 in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Of course, as you mentioned, Marty, we've got Game 6 between the Habs and Leafs on Saturday night. Winner of that series will be the next opponent for the Winnipeg Jets. What have you thought about that series? And maybe start off with the goaltending matchup between Carey Price and Jack Campbell.
Well, I think if you look at Jack Campbell, yesterday was not a good game for him. He showed a little weakness. He showed that he was maybe out of energy a little bit. He rolled around the ice a little too much. So it's one game. In a 7-game series, you may have a game that's not your best. That's okay. I mean, it just happens, but you have to overcome that. So Jack Campbell's been great for the Leafs. He's played very solid for them. They were up 3-1. Like, he was a big part of that. Now it's 3-2. I mean, it's no big deal. You continue moving forward. Carey Price, on the other hand, has been spectacular, and he has to be. He has to be because the Montreal Canadiens don't score any goals. They don't give him any support. So he has to be perfect. You know, yesterday was a 4-3 game. He got lucky. They scored 4 goals, and they needed overtime to do it. But you saw in the third period that the Leafs were coming back, and they were pressing. The Leafs still had the better scoring chances, the most amount of scoring chances between the two teams last night, and Price was really good. But it's an interesting matchup because, again, it goes like an old school goaltender like Jack Campbell that plays the position a little bit on the feel of the game, and Carey Price that's so sound technically. So it's fun for me to watch that and see what the benefits are from both styles and how you can combine them.
Who do you think is a tougher matchup for the Winnipeg Jets in round 2?
Oh, I think it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think right now, if I had to look at round 2, I still think that the Leafs, because, listen, the Leafs were dominating the North Division all year. So I think I would put the Leafs in 7 if they were to play the Winnipeg Jets. And people in Winnipeg, don't yell at me on Twitter. I'm just saying I think it would go to 7. But at that point, you can flip a coin in the air and the Jets could take it. So I still think the Jets are the better team to oust the Leafs at any point in the first 2 rounds. It wasn't the Oilers and it was not the Montreal Canadiens. But if the Canadiens were to surprise the Leafs and win game 6 and 7, this is going to be a Jets win in 5. Listen, they would dominate the Montreal Canadiens, in my opinion, with their physicality. Right now, Montreal is trying to be physical against the Leafs. They're hitting everybody. They're creating turnovers. Well, the Jets can play that physical game, so I don't think Montreal would be in good company if the Jets were their opponents in the second round.
You know what, I'll tell you what, maybe this is just a very optimistic Winnipeg point of view, but I have to say that if it gets to a game 7, much like it was in overtime and in triple overtime, there's a special confidence that a team has, and I think a fan base has, when you have a goaltender like Connor Hellebuyck in the net in those big moments. And he's shown it over and over again, and certainly did in the first round. But, Marty, have you ever played 3 straight overtime games? What does that do to a team? I mean, as far as, well, listen, you know, it tires you out. They've got the rest. But, I mean, moving forward, we've heard a lot about the belief and the togetherness of this Winnipeg Jets team. But when you have a series win like they had, with so many tight games and winning the way they did, what can that do for a team going forward as they continue the quest for the Stanley Cup?
Well, look at the Carolina Hurricanes right now. They won in overtime last night. They beat the Nashville Predators in 6 games. Rod Brindamore comes into the locker room after the game. He says, "We're a family." That's what family does. They stick together. They get to overtime. They stick together. They find a way to win. That's what the Jets did. And I have no other example than the 93 Montreal Canadiens. Like, I was a huge Quebec Nordiques fan. And when Teemu Selanne scored his 70-some goal against Stéphane Fiset and threw the glove in the air, like, I was devastated, right? I love the Nordiques. But in 93, in the first round, that's how Montreal ended up beating Quebec, with overtimes. And then in the second round, they beat Buffalo with 3 overtime wins. And then they kept on going, winning overtime. And if you look at the Montreal Canadiens in 93, they weren't the best team, but they were the best group to be put together and be able to stick together and be a family. You had Denis Savard, who wasn't even dressed, and he was on the bench in a suit, right? Like, that's how that team came together as a family. And all these overtime wins, yes, there's a little bit of luck, but when you look at it, you need a team that is going to stick together. And the teams that do that the best usually are most successful, especially under pressure in overtime.
I'm glad you brought up the 93 Habs, because I didn't want to, but I'd be lying if there wasn't a little part of me that goes, wow, 3 overtime wins. I mean, what did Montreal have that year? They had a pretty solid, deep team, and they had Patrick Waugh in net. And there are some similarities. If you just want to look at what we just saw from the Winnipeg Jets through 4 games, it kind of reminded me of that club that has a little something special going, especially when it comes down to sudden death overtime. And who knows whether that will continue. But if you want a series to get your playoff mojo going, I can't imagine it going much better than the way things went for the Winnipeg Jets in round 1, because they had to earn every single game. They had to play extra. I mean, there was no easy wins, but at the same time they got them, and now they get some very valuable rest getting ready for a team that will be starting a series relatively quickly after finishing off their opponent, regardless of who wins.
Yeah, and I'm still tired from the game Monday night. I believe, it was 2:06 Eastern time when that game was over. By the time I was done doing some work after the game and a Sports Center hit, it was, 3 a.m. when I got out of my suit. So I'm still tired. I can't imagine what it was like for those players. But now they got the rest. They get to ease up. They get to practice. Practice has not happened at all this season. Now you get to work on part of your games that you need to practice. If it is special teams or forecheck or defensive zone coverage, you get to do some different things. It's going to be really important for the Jets to be able to do that. And I look at it as, again, you look at the defense score of the Jets. They surprised me. In that third overtime game, they rolled 6D. They kept coming, right? They used everybody on D. What did the Edmonton Oilers do? They went to 4. Like Darnell Nurse played 62 minutes. Why? Because they couldn't trust the back end in Edmonton, but the Jets could trust their back end. And lastly, for that one, if you go back to 93 with the Montreal Canadiens, they had Jacques Demers as a coach. Jacques was a very, very good players coach. He played the psychological aspect of the game a little bit like Paul Maurice, and they are all very respected in the game.
Marty Biron with us here. Marty, we've all season long have been focusing so much on the Canadian division. Obviously, you being in Buffalo got a pretty good look at many of the teams south of the border. It took me about half a season to kind of wake up to what the Minnesota Wild were doing, and this is a team, Marty, that over the last few years we've seen a ton of the Minnesota Wild, in the Central Division, and they were a team that was getting older, they were getting slower. They were crippled by some contracts, and, they make a change at general manager, they make a change at coach, bring in a player like Kaprizov. And if you hadn't been, I've said this maybe earlier on the show or earlier this week, next year, if you have not paid any attention to the Minnesota Wild, we're going to get back into the Central Division, and you're going to see this team going, what the heck happened? Where did the old Minnesota Wild go? Thoughts on that team, and of course tonight's Game 7, as the Vegas Golden Knights have had 2 chances to finish them off but have not been able to kill the Minnesota Wild.
It is going to be wild in Vegas tonight for Game 7. Let me tell you this. I believe, I don't know, this is just a hunch. Max Pacioretty, I believe, will be in the lineup. They had to send Cody Glass down to the minors on Tuesday. I think it was to open up a spot for Pacioretty. Obviously, Cody Glass did play with the Silver Knight in their AHL playoffs, so maybe there's a back and forth going on there. But I think Pacioretty comes back, and if he does, this would be a huge boost for the Vegas Golden Knights. But as you're talking about the Minnesota Wild, their group of defense, like I know Cam Talbot's playing fantastic, and you guys all know like Cam Talbot and playing with Calgary the last few years and Edmonton before that, like he's had some up and down season. But with the Minnesota Wild, he's been fantastic. And he's been fantastic because the group of defense in front of him, their top 4 defensemen have been together for a long time. They're easy to play behind because you can read and react off of them. Minnesota somehow is not providing a ton of offense with their forwards. Like Hartman's had a good series. You've got Zuccarello that only has, I think, a couple of assists, and one was a great pass to Kaprizov. Kaprizov has been quiet, but it's all from the back end. The blue line is providing a ton of offense, and they are able to play that playoff-style hockey that neutralizes and suffocates the energy from the Vegas Golden Knights. There's been some interesting calls, though, goaltender interference challenges that have happened. Foligno got called in a game earlier in the series. I thought that should have been a good goal. Alex Tuck got called for a goaltender interference the other night. I thought that should have been a good goal. So for me, there's been a little bit of gamesmanship from both coaches in that series. So it's been interesting, and tonight is going to be fun. Now, it's a late game for us on the East Coast, but you guys, it's right in your kitchen. You get dinner, you put the kids to bed, and you end up watching a Game 7. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll be more than happy to take an 8 o'clock game in the West Coast, Marty. I mean, for crying out loud, the Game 4 locally started at 8:45 here. Nashville got it last night. That's sort of part of being in the Central Time Zone.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to eat it and start late. But you know what? The late start just made it even more of a legendary game in Game 4 when the Jets had to go into the wee hours of Tuesday morning to finish off the Edmonton Oilers. Speaking of goaltending, I couldn't help but feel sorry for Sidney Crosby and the rest of the Penguins, and really for Tristan Jarry as well. I mean, when the game got tight, he just couldn't even mix in a save. Was it as simple as that? Goaltending cost the Pittsburgh Penguins, or is this another case of Barry Trotz being maybe the best playoff coach in the game and getting more of his team than anybody else does?
It was twofold with goaltending when you look at that series between the Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins. One, Semyon Varlamov could not win a game. He came into Game 2. He was bad on a goal early. Then he was good for the rest of the game, but you can't give up freebies like the one he gave up. And then Game 3, he gave up a couple of bad goals as well. So then they turn around and they go back to Sorokin, who had won Game 1, and he wins Game 4, 5, 6. I mean, that was the boost that the Islanders needed, just solid goaltending, which is not what Pittsburgh got. Pittsburgh got decent goaltending early on, and then it just went from bad to worse. In Game 6, I thought, listen, Jarry's going to come up. He's going to, all that experience, in juniors, he was really good under pressure. He's going to come out with a big, big effort. And unfortunately, he gave up a couple of stinkers. The last one that made it 5-3, right through to 5-0. So those are not the type of performance that you need to have in the playoffs.
Marty, I know you got to run real quick. Carolina, Tampa, who do you like in that series? It should be awesome.
I'm going to pick Tampa on that one. They showed me how strong they can be in the first round. I really like Florida all season. Their goaltending was iffy, but still, I think Tampa wins that one.
Marty, thanks so much for the time. You are the best. Everyone loving your visit here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. You be well, my friend.
Well, I'll come up for the horse racing and for the beer that you were talking about earlier. I'd like to have some of that too.
Full spread for you. We'll get a tea time at Breezy Bend for you. We'll do it up, Marty, as soon as we are available. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, pal. There he is, Marty Biron. I have to tell you, we've been lucky enough to be doing this for a few years, and we've had incredible people on the program, dating back over 10 years to working with Gary before we even went over to the Pembina Highway office. And Marty Biron, without a doubt, one of my top 5, top 3 favorite guys to talk about. Been seeing everyone's comments in the chat. Remo, it doesn't get much better. And something about the old goaltenders. We had Noodles on, was it last week or a couple weeks ago? He was amazing. But, honestly, Marty Biron is a guy I would pay to sit down at a bar stool and just listen to Marty talk hockey all night.
Yeah, Marty was awesome. Wow, listening to him talk about the Jets series, talk about Connor Hellebuck. He's got so much enthusiasm. You know why he's on TV. He came with the pro setup, maybe one of the best rooms that we've seen on the show. The symmetrical chairs, the shelf behind him, the centering. Marty's a pro. That was very well done. I was like, Marty, you want to test? He's like, no, we're good. I got good Wi-Fi. I can handle this. So I got to send him a big thank you. That was awesome.
No, for sure. It was that honestly one of my favorite segments we've done since starting Winnipeg Sports Talk. And obviously, it's a fun topic right now for those of us here in Winnipeg talking about this win over the series over the Edmonton Oilers. But some pretty interesting insight as to potential matchups in round 2, what Marty likes about the Winnipeg Jets, as well as a potential tough out with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the next round if they're able to finish off the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, they'll have a chance to finish off those Habs tomorrow night in game number 6. 2,500 fans in the building. Remo, what do you think about the fans in the building in Montreal? I mean, let's face it, this is the biggest building in the National Hockey League. 2,500 is 10% capacity. They're not going to be packed in. Do you think that'll have any effect on the game other than hopefully make it a little bit more enjoyable for fans to watch it with a few, at least, live bodies in the stands?
I have no idea. I think we've seen some other places that have had like 5,000 fans, and you're surprised at the impact. I mean, we'll see. I know they're here. I can pull up the seating chart right now, and here I got it right here. Let's bring it up. So here it is. So they're seating them all around, and you look at these tickets. Cheapest one, Huss, comes to $1,300, and you're
Whoa!
sitting 331. So like over here, the top left, 331. 1,300 on Ticketmaster. Now that's a resale price, but still not cheap. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll make
what are some of the good seats? Like pop down into
Here.
the P1s. Like what are those going for right now in the resale market?
Let me just bring so you can actually see the prices. Let me just edit this thing. Oh man, my screen is way too long. But here, you want to see what the prices are?
Yeah. I'm interested as to what the prices are going for right now.
So let's go. If you want to sit center ice, 113. No seats available. No seats. Does anyone have any seats available? What about these two back here? 25 HUD right there, section 107. Now, I guess the real question is, like, is anyone buying these? Like, are people, I don't know if people are actually buying them or not. But, yeah, that's not
I think
cheap.
there's the potential that those prices may go down. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, you're talking about, supply and demand, and the demand is massive. I mean, this is Toronto and the Leafs. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these tickets are bought up by Leaf fans that make the trip in, that have the jack to throw down a couple G's a ticket. But again, you're only talking about 2,500. The supply is so limited. The demand is so high. I can't say I'm surprising. What I'm interested to know is, and I have not seen or heard any real information on this, is how they decided to sell the tickets originally. I mean, did they just go to select season ticket holders and give them an opportunity to do it, and then all of these people are just reselling because they had the opportunity to buy them? Did they do a first come? And what was the actual face value ticket? Like, what are the Canadians charging for these seats as opposed to what Ticketmaster's gouging people in the secondary market?
That was secondary market, so it's probably season ticket holders who bought them for like a couple $100. I didn't see what it was, but the original, but price of those. But I think I heard it was like a couple $100.
Mike Wynn in the chat. Who can afford those seats? Not me. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
I'd rather stay home. Drop a couple grand on maybe for the Super Bowl I could eat $2,000 for a ticket, but Game 6 Habs Leafs. But it is big. I mean, these teams haven't played in the playoffs since 1979. There have been no fans for over a year. I'm not surprised at the prices on it. But bottom line, I'm just looking forward to the fact, Remo, that we will have some live bodies in, and you can only hope that that's a sign of things to come for those of us here out west.
I will say this. I mean, if you're going to that game, you're not waiting in line to use the bathroom, and they're probably going to be a lot cleaner than normal because there's no one there. So that would definitely be an incentive. That's what I think about. I mean, and I don't think you can get food there. I saw on Twitter you can't get food because you got to keep your mask on.
No food, no booze. So you're gonna have to take care of yourself. Figure it out before you get in there. So as I said, special appearance on a Friday of Kenny Wiebe coming up. He and Rennie, after a great show this morning, have something else cooking up this afternoon with Josh Morrissey. We'll tell you about that coming up a little bit later on. Before we get to Ken, want to shout out our friends at Breezy Bend Country Club, our golf sponsor. The course is in absolutely mint shape. Problem is, you can only golf by yourself right now. Although, if you like doing that, probably a bit easier to get a tee time. But they're doing some amazing work on the course right now. Cannot wait to get out there a little bit later on this season. And if you're thinking about a membership for next season, the waiting list is growing. Get on it now, breezybend.ca, or give them a call. Talk to our good friend Corey Johnson, GM of the year, and they'll talk to you about maybe getting out and joining us at Breezy Bend next season. And speaking of Breezy, wanted to give a quick look at the PGA Tour Charles Schwab Challenge, which right now is suspended due to inclement weather. But Jason Kokrak, back-to-back 5 under 65s. He is the leader right now at 10 under par. Sebastian Munoz got it to 8, along with Sergio Garcia and Jordan Spieth. Spieth was 7 under yesterday. He's only 2 holes into his round and 1 under. So he's got 16 holes to get up and pass Kokrak right now. We've got Adam Hadwin, though. Adam Hadwin, 2 under for his round. He's on the 7th hole, and he is tied for 7th at 6 under. So a nice start for Adam Hadwin. Colin Morikawa in the top 10 as well. My guy Tony Finau is tied for 13th. He's at 4 under par. And just looking at some of the other top names, you might recognize Justin Rose at 2, my guy Benny On at 2 under par, and Will the Thrill Zalatoris 1 under after 1. He's 2 under. We'll look forward to it. Should be a great Sunday out at the Charles Schwab. See what happens on tour. And Phil, for his part, shot 3 over yesterday, was asked if he was disappointed about playing the way he did after winning the PGA last week. And he said, well, I didn't play very well, but I'm the PGA champion, and just smiled at the media and moved on. Nobody does it better than Phil. Thanks again to Breezy Bend. There you are, Breezy Bend Advantage right up on the screen. How about this production level from our friend Michael Remis? And I'll tell you what, may as well shout out our friends at Aikens Lake as well. We had Elliot, our former guide, one of the guys that basically taught me how to fish, because I didn't know a damn thing by the time I got to Aikens. World-class fly-in fishing lodge right here in Manitoba. You can literally be on the water from the city in less than 2 hours. There's our friend Paterson. The Terren family runs the place. Find out more aikenslake.ca, or aikenslake.com, or on Twitter at Aikens Lake. Normally packed with Americans through June into July. Not a lot of tourism going on in Manitoba right now, so some unique opportunities to get out there. I cannot recommend a place more than Aikens Lake. Some of my favorite experiences ever in the summer have been there, and we can't wait to get there a little bit later on. All right, we'll get to the cool bet lines later on this afternoon. And of course, if you're with us live right now in the chat and you entered our Instagram contest, make sure to stay till the end. Our biggest marble race ever for a Little Brown Jug gift certificate to finish off what will be a very fun Friday. But speaking of fun, let's welcome in our pal Ken Wiebe, Sportsnet contributor and one half of Kenny and Rennie. Weber, happy Friday to you. Great to see you. What's going on?
And for the plug earlier, and Marty, Biron, tough guest to follow, but we're going to do our best here. I know, Remis, this is not the pro setup, but good product placement over the shoulder here.
Yes, you're sounding good. Where did you get the logo? Did you get that made up on Amazon or something like that?
Took care of it for Sean and I. And
nice.
Also
nice.
Impressive, Colin Jensen, our cameraman, has the Kenny and Rennie 3 original masks made that we unveiled this week as well.
Before we start, guys, we do have to intro song for Kenny. We need to play today.
Yes, please do. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk, Ken Wiebe. Hit it, Reem.
Wiebe's World, it's party time. Excellent, Wiebe's World, it's party time. Excellent. Woo!
Wiebe's World is in the house. Shout out to our man, Brian Aiken. That was a ditty he made for us back in the day. Sent it to us. I'm like, you better believe we're playing that the next time we have Ken on.
Been way too long since we heard that on the airwaves, Huss. That was one of the classics at the time, and now would it count as a classic now? It's only been a few years, but you love to see it.
It's still it's timeless. It is what it is, Ken. It's timeless. And, we'll probably be playing that again on Winnipeg Sports Talk going forward. But a special shout out to our pal, Brian Aiken. Bravo, Bri, in the world of the internet. Great supporter of ours, and did some real fun stuff and sent that over to us. First off, how was the show this morning? 9 a.m. You guys got after it with the Friday show. A lot of people, I think, are used to you guys doing the post-game shows and a little Instagram pre-game setup, but 9 a.m. every Friday is the time where you guys do your weekly show, and was another good one this morning, Weber.
Yeah, tremendous, and thanks for the plug yesterday on that as well. I mean, Tim McAuliffe and Scott Oak, just fantastic stuff, great insight, and both kind of touched on some personal tragedies that sort of led to some legacy projects in terms of both their personal and professional careers. And you love to see what Scott has been doing with his family with the Bruce Oak Recovery Center. It was a big week for them as well, and Tim talked about his passion after losing his brother who played at the University of Western Mustangs, and just great backstories. Like, these guys are great fountains of knowledge when it comes to the industry itself, but just great passion for sports, for the business that we work in, and just quality human beings, Huss. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about being able to share those people's backstories and their personalities with the viewers and the listeners.
Well, Scott Oak's the best, and I'm a huge fan of Tim McAuliffe, although always being on the other side of the fence. I've never really come across with him professionally, but, big fan of what he does. And you're right. I mean, to me, this entire format, sports talk, I mean, you want to have people that know what they're talking about, but at the end of the days, I mean, we're hanging out together. I mean, you want it to be with good dudes, and McAuliffe right there at the top of the list when I think of good dudes in Canadian sports media.
Oh, no doubt. And I mean, Huss, you also, you fall under that category as a man of the people and have been for many moons. But Tim's just a fantastic human being, and, haven't had the opportunity to work with him like Sean has, but he's just gone completely out of his way to help support the show. I mean, he's given a couple of great shout outs in terms of the Jets promotions and the spots that we've done leading into his show. And we can't be more thankful for that, but just quality human beings, as you know. I mean, Scott Oak and his people, that great classic 2018, and we kind of got into it. I mean, how different it was. And Scott, having been in the building for Game 3 against Nashville in 2018, which had that rousing rally from 3-0, very similar, except this was a third period rally and a OT winner from Nikolai Ehlers, who is coming back in the lineup, as we've all talked about. And as Andrew Kopp so aptly pointed out, if you're a sports fan in this province, those games 3 and 4 would have probably been among the most fun nights you could have had in a building had we not been under these circumstances.
Well, it's a great point. And we had Kirbyson on earlier, and speaking about, his book and going back. And I mean, I was in the building for the Dave Ellett goal. It was probably the highlight of my sports watching life for the better part of the next 20 years. I mean, nothing else was going on, certainly here in Winnipeg, that would have rivaled that. We've had some similar moments this week, and the crazy thing is, I mean, it seems like a year ago that Paul Stastny became an overtime hero. Then it was Nikolai Ehlers in the comeback, and then, of course, triple overtime for Kyle Connor. I mean, Ken, you could make an argument, especially when you add in the tortured history of the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs against the Edmonton Oilers, that some of these wins and overtime wins, albeit first-round matchups, some of the biggest wins in the playoff history of the NHL Jets, obviously the WHA Jets in a bit of a different category with their championships.
Yeah, no doubt, Huston. I mean, as whether we were teenagers or not quite there yet, to even look back into the 80s and some of those moments where it looked like the Jets were maybe going to get over the hump, if you will, only to be disappointed by, a great play by Messier here, a great goal by Curry there, or a great pass by Gretzky there. Man, there was so much heartache when it came to that. And as you touched on, 1990, well, Gretzky's not there, so maybe this is the year, right? Up 3-1 in that series, and then nothing but heartache and, constant, stress over Bob Essenson not starting Game 7. And now, as you mentioned, the tortured history, there was a lot of emotional scar tissue that I think that got kind of touched on in the last couple of weeks. But I think that would be a big part of the exorcism. You can't erase those memories, but I think that was certainly an important step forward for Jets 2.0 fan base. And it was just fun to see, right? I mean, the atmosphere in the building. And I love how open and honest Blake Wheeler was. And as someone who has been involved in one of those 4 comebacks from 3-0, but he was on the wrong side of the comeback in 2010 against the Philadelphia Flyers. And when someone like that says you don't want to give the opponent life, he's not lying. He's seen it firsthand, and he knows how quickly a series can go poof. I mean, Josh Archibald, if he doesn't make that hit, we might still be talking about a series that is ongoing, and that's not to take nothing away from the way the Jets played, just because of the nature of how the series was set up. That could have easily been 2-2 going back to Edmonton, and no one would have batted an eyelash, right? So, I mean, the fact that they were able to pull through and come up with those 3 overtime wins in succession was an impressive job for, quite frankly, a lot of people that had written that team off in terms of a team that had given them a bunch of beatdowns in the regular season, including 6 in a row.
Hey, let me ask you this. There's always the thought, I mean, you want to win a series as quickly as you can, but people say the rest versus rust going into the next season. I mean, from my perspective, the ability to rest as much as possible, especially if you have designs on a long playoff run, it can be so invaluable. But the other part of it, Ken, is the ability for the coaching staff to extensively game plan for, right now, 2 possible opponents. But the other side of it is that, they actually are going to be able to practice. They'll probably get more practice time right now than they've had in the last 2 months. How important do you think this sweep will be when we get to round 2?
Yeah, and you're not exaggerating there, Huss. I mean, we know what the March and April were like for the Jets, especially March with the 17 games. For me, it's a trickle down in a lot of places. Yes, we know that Connor Hellebuck enjoys the rhythm of the game, but when you're the busiest goaltender in the National Hockey League and you've made the most starts and seen the most action, of course you could benefit from a week off or whatever it is. For Pierre-Luc Dubois, who probably didn't have 7 practices the entire season, the opportunity for him to get an opportunity to skate with Nikolai Ehlers and Paul Stastny on a regular basis somewhere other than in-game circumstances, that to me is going to be a massive factor. I think Pierre-Luc Dubois has the ability to be an X factor in the next round. There were some glimpses again during that series. He started to get his shot opening up, started to find some chemistry there with Stastny and Ehlers. And speaking of Ehlers, no one will benefit more than Nikolai Ehlers from this break, given the fact that he missed the final 9 games of the regular season, the first 2 games of the playoff run, came back and then played the equivalent of 3 games in 2 nights. And oh, by the way, while I'm inserting myself back into the series, how about 2 goals, including the OT winner? I thought his legs were still there in game 4, but the more important thing for him is he was starting to get involved physically. So we know, or we suspect, it was a shoulder issue. The fact that he was not shying away from contact, I think, was a big development. But as we've talked about leading into the series, even though he was skating, still haven't seen a slap shot from Nikolai Ehlers. He doesn't need the slap shot, but for him to have that extra week before the next opponent is a massive development for the Winnipeg Jets. And then, too, let's talk about Blake Wheeler, who had an exceptional series. The 34-year-old captain, a week in between series, that's only going to help him stay fresh and keep his legs going. They were churning all series long, and they will continue to churn. Paul Stastny, great two-way play throughout the first round. Very physical in game 4. You don't always see that from him. He was very involved in the forecheck, got active in terms of taking the body. That's obviously going to help as a 35-year-old forward, having that time off. Now, would you want to play a little bit sooner than maybe Tuesday or Wednesday? Sure. But like you were talking about, Huss, this is an opportunity to reinforce the good habits that were on display in that first round and continue that commitment to both puck management and the defensive zone responsibilities that were so important in that series. Today, we saw the Jets get a little bit more back up to speed in terms of getting their legs underneath them in practice, and that's something you'll see continue. The focus is on the Jets game right now. Paul Maurice reinforced that once they know who the opponent is, then the video will start coming on that team. But right now, they have a great opportunity to reinforce some of the things that allowed them to have success in the first round.
Speaking of that opponent, we might find it out on Saturday. If not, we'll know Monday night. What did you think of the Habs going up, blowing their lead, and then pretty bizarre 2-0 in overtime? Like, no, not 3-on-3 overtime, but 5-on-5 playoff overtime, and that one was over before the overtime was even a minute old.
Yeah, bizarre turn of events. I don't think a lot of people had Jake Muzzin on the bingo card for getting that game to even, and unfortunate for Alex Galchenyuk, who had a very strong series to that point, that no-look blind pass that leads to the giveaway. Muzzin caught flat-footed. Bogosian going down to pinch. Like, there were just a sequence of events that kind of conspired against the Leafs, I guess, in some ways. But great read and anticipation by Cole Caulfield. Great job. I know the puck was wobbling a little, like, great patience to get the puck back to Suzuki. But man, if you look at that replay closely, Huss, that puck is wobbling and Suzuki has to absolutely stay focused in order to squeeze that past Jack Campbell, because you absolutely have to convert that 2-on-0 opportunity in extra time. And that keeps their season alive and now gives a team hope, like we were just talking about. I still think that the Leafs have too much depth, but man, what do you think they're going to be talking about the next 2 days? That whole haven't won a playoff series since 2004. If that goes to a game 7, oh my goodness, can you imagine the angst level in Toronto if there is a game 7? I do think they will be able to wrap up the series, but when you get this deep in the playoffs, you never know. That's the beauty of it, right? You just never know. That might have been all the Canadiens needed to get their belief back in terms of finding, we talked all series. This team hadn't scored enough goals. Well, guess what? They just put up a 4 spot. So now they're feeling good offensively. Can you continue to keep those big guns under wraps? I mean, that's the big question for me going into game 6.
Ken Wiebe with us here from Sportsnet, and Kenny and Rennie. big show coming up a little later. Well, why don't we talk? I'd love to talk to you about Josh Morrissey.
Sure.
Quickly plug what you guys are doing. You're going to go on at 3 with Morrissey, talk some playoffs, talk to him about his season, and then fill us in on that, and then let's talk about Morrissey's performance in these 4 games, because after a very up and down season, sometimes more on the downside, I can't remember the last time we saw him play with as much confidence and as well as he did in that series against Edmonton.
Yeah, it's been impressive, Huss. Josh Morrissey will join us at 3 o'clock for kind of a pop-up show. We did a similar thing when Adam Lowry signed his extension, and worked out really well, but we didn't promote it well enough. So appreciate the venue to do that. Also,
we're here for you, Kenny.
Yes, you are. You are definitely there, Huss. You have been for a long, long time, and it's appreciated. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, in anticipation of what today was, we thought it might be a playoff preview show, but we're going to have to wait a few more days before that show gets going. But we thought we'd have the opportunity to speak with Josh. It'll be a great opportunity there. And back to his play, Huss. I mean, he played well, better down the stretch for sure. But the reunion with Dylan DeMello really sparked some impressive results in that first round. Those two, I mean, it was not just a 2-man effort or a 1-man effort. It was a 5-man collective, but Josh Morrissey was quite simply the Jets' best defenseman in round 1. And that is with all due respect to Neil Pionk, who had a very strong series himself. Morrissey playing like that top pairing guy that we saw for quite a few years. That's part of the reason why he got that 8-year, $50 million extension. He's always been a great leader, community leader with this team, but he was able to get his game elevated back to that level where folks have him in the discussion for the Olympic team. That's the Josh Morrissey that you saw on display during those 4 games. And I think for him, that was a massive development, especially to do it against Connor McDavid and his former junior teammate, Leon Draisaitl, who he has a lot of respect for. But man, that pairing was so, so good. Dylan DeMello, we've talked so much about how he's such a quiet, under the radar type player, but his ability to be in a safety valve position to make those smart reads. Those two seemed so in sync together during that entire series that it was just an impressive display. And I mean, that's the level that Josh wants to push himself to get to and beyond. Classic Morrissey during his Zoom call the other day, he wanted no part of any credit, basically. Talked openly about the partnership and about how it meant for him to have, DeMello beside him, and went out of his way to talk about the 6-man unit, which, let's not kid ourselves, Huss. Having that ability to put the third pairing out in that third overtime game where the Oilers went down to 4 D-men in the third period was
Basically
really
went down to 2 D-men. I mean, Darnell Nurse barely ever came off the ice.
Yeah, that was one of the classic lines. Nurse having a shift of 4:47, 62 plus minutes, just an incredible job. I mean, Morrissey that night went 42 minutes to set a franchise record to eclipse what Dustin Byfuglien did at one point.
Let me ask you this. Nurse played over 15 minutes of the 20 in the first overtime. Can you ever remember a forward in the NHL playing more than 3/4 of a period? I can't.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, there was a time when Chris Pronger did not come off the ice a lot, but I don't think there was ever a stretch where he played that much. The classic line by Maurice saying, you're kind of feeling like you're kind of punch drunk off the bench, and you look up and did he come off, or is he still out there? You look at the clock, it was like 5. Are you kidding? Like, he's still out there. It was like, your listeners and viewers will appreciate. A lot of them are, beer league hockey players. This is like a classic Sunday night at 10:45 when you've got 7 skaters and there's someone who literally does not come off because there's nobody else that wants to play defense. That's what it felt like for Darnell Nurse. But the big difference between that and the beer league hockey is that Darnell Nurse was still the first guy back to the puck and actually actively joining the rush. He wasn't just trying to survive with the dog paddle out there when he was swimming. He basically was still getting to pucks first and being active on the rush and making smart passes. So incredible job. And then, obviously congratulations to his family on adding a new addition the morning after playing 62 minutes. That was quite a scene for sure.
Oh, it's some funny stuff happening in the chat, as often happens. I see Rachel's here, Leafs fan Rachel. Hi, Rach. She's going Leafs and Jets. Rach, just to be honest, don't you worry about the Jets right now. Worry about the Habs. Saturday night, Game 6. And then maybe we'll see you and the rest of the Leafs Nation in here with the chat. Always welcome, though. Lots of fun with the Leaf fans coming here. Although, I will say, far fewer Leaf fans in here today than we had the last few days. I wonder why that's been. But shout out to Rachel for having the stones to get in there and mix it up in the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat. Kenny, last night, Carolina gets it done. Big comeback win in overtime. Finally got an overtime goal after Nashville was the team that was winning the OT games in this series. Let me ask you, now that the Canes have moved on, how do you handicap that Canes Lightning series? Should be an amazing matchup.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, big goal from Dougie Hamilton, who had a quiet series, and then, boy, what a redirection. I don't know. I assume they changed the goal. Slavin with the shot, or Slavin with the shot, and what a tip by Sebastian Aho. What a play. And I mean, Saros was so good, so excellent in the series. It would have had to take a perfect shot to beat him, back to our tap to tie. I mean, Huss, not a lot of people gave the Predators much chance. Right? Not a lot of people gave them much chance in that series. I did not either. Carolina is a very good hockey team. I think they've taken another important step under Rod Brind'Amour. They've got great depth. They've got one of the best defense corps in the National Hockey League. But to me, all of that said, I think the Lightning they have that upper echelon talent that is hard for me to bet against. I think that series goes a full 7. And it could impede the Lightning from defending their title. But I do think the Lightning do find a way to prevail. But I think that we're in for another couple dandy hockey games. We know the atmosphere has just been, so dynamite. And even the game last night too, Huss, it makes me think of 2018. Like, I love there's a very collegial atmosphere in Nashville. No surprise with it being a college town. I miss the goalie chant. I know that Connor Hellebuyck often talked about it. I love the thing after the goal, the you. I mean, I miss hearing that in person, Huss. I know Jets fans never liked hearing it, but for someone in the building, I loved the fact that they were so into it. I miss that city, and I hope there's a time when this pandemic gets under control and we can travel there for hockey once again.
Yeah, well, I mean, hell, they're going to have 2,500 in Bell Center tomorrow night. But unfortunately, we're more screwed than anywhere on the planet, it seems, right now. So I'm not holding my breath that, getting some white-clad people in Bell MTS Place anytime soon, unfortunately. Kenny, we got Game 7 tonight. Wild, Vegas. You cannot kill the Minnesota Wild. Will they be put to pasture tonight, or do the Vegas Golden Knights get their hearts broken at home?
Man, Dean Evason has done, speaking of Manitoba connections, what a job Dean Evason has done behind the bench of the Minnesota Wild. They just don't go away. I mean, every time you think they're about to be extinguished, they find a way to get the job done. I am going to have to stick with the Vegas Golden Knights here. They were my pick to win the Stanley Cup. They're really having a tough time scoring right now. Man, they mismatched Max Pacioretty, and they need to get Shea Theodore going on the back end. He has not had the same offensive last year. Being in the bubble in Edmonton, I had a chance to watch him up close and personal, and man, he would look like a future Norris Trophy winner, and he still very well may be, but he needs to get something going in terms of the offense from the back end. I just think that Mark Stone, speaking of Manitoba connections, and I really liked the way Cody Glass played the other night, pretty involved for a guy just jumping into the lineup. I think Mark Stone has a massive impact on the game tonight. I think Marc-Andre Fleury stands on his head, and I do think that the Vegas Golden Knights earn a, let's say, 3-1 victory with maybe an empty netter tossed in there. I think we're going to get another fantastic hockey game there.
Hey, Kenny, just before we go, I'm not sure if you caught any of the Canada-Kazakhstan game earlier.
I saw the snipe. That's all I saw. I didn't see the game.
Cole Perfetti pops the winner. And I'll say, first off, it speaks to, the state of the Canadian team when Canada was only like a -400 favorite against Kazakhstan. I'm like, what? Usually they don't even put odds for Canada-Kazakhstan. All that being said, though, great opportunity for Cole Perfetti and a big goal for the Jet rookie.
No kidding. I mean, a couple weeks back, he fires a wrister snapper past Freddie Anderson. Today, he snipes the GWG at the World Hockey Championship. Man, what a season for Cole Perfetti. I had an opportunity to watch him live a few times and have a few interviews and talks with him during the year. And when he goes home for the summer, when he finally takes some time to exhale, we know that he is the king of quarantine, if you will, for lack of a better term. He's going to go home.
That's Eric Comrie. Eric Comrie's the king of quarantine.
Well, okay. Well,
he's the prince.
Yeah, he can be the Fresh Prince. Okay, Fresh Prince right there. We'll come to an agreement on that for sure. When he takes an exhale when he gets home before he starts that summer training, man, is he ever going to have an opportunity to reflect on what an opportunity he's had this season in terms of his all-around game and the experiences that he will be able to take forward with him? World Junior, World Championship, American Hockey League, even those few skates that he had with the Jets, and having the ability to watch those guys full time, he is going to come to next fall's training camp with such vigor and just so fire. He'll be so fired up. I know that he's come such a long way in 1 year, and every time you think, well, it's going to take him a little bit longer, I think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for him. Can he make the team? We'll see, but I would not be surprised one bit if he forced his way into an extended look at the start of the year and goes from there, because he's just been dynamite. We know the vision was always there. He's got the hockey intelligence, but the biggest development for Cole Perfetti at the start of the year, the bulk of his points were coming with the man advantage, which is no surprise considering his spatial awareness and smarts. During the second half, he became a dominant force at 5-on-5 while playing against a lot of people who are bigger and stronger than him. His elite hockey brain will allow him to do certain things that other people at 19 years old just simply cannot do. And I think that he's such a driven individual. He's going to continue to turn heads as he moves forward.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken. I mean, next year, there's no AHL opportunity, assuming that the OHL is going on, right? I mean, I just have a hard time imagining that he would go back to junior after the season that he's had.
Yeah, I mean, you understand. I mean, there were some discussions, but we also still got to remember he's still 19 and a little bit undersized. But I mean, he's going to make the decision as difficult as humanly possible, I believe, Huss, and we'll see what the summer brings. But he's a guy who is going to have a massive impact on this Winnipeg Jets roster moving forward. Whether that's next season or not, that will be up to him. But he is one of the top prospects, and he will continue to push himself to be better. I mean, we knew at the time the Jets were fortunate to get him at 10, and he's done nothing but bolster his stock and status with the season that he's been having.
Wiebe, great stuff. Fun having you pop in on Friday. We'll certainly get back at it with you next week as we'll get into round number 1. But just again, 3 o'clock today, Kenny and Rennie's site. We'll be finishing up shortly afterwards. People can just pop over into your YouTube channel, sit down with Josh Morrissey and chop it up with the Jets' number 1 defenseman, along with Rennie without the headband, I assume.
Exactly. Thanks for having me, Huss, and I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and thanks as always for the opportunity.
Right back at you, dude. You know him. It's Wiebe's World. Shout out to Brian for the intro song that we had, Ken Wiebe. And coming up in about 20, not even 20 minutes, the guys will be live at 3 p.m. on the Kenny and Rennie YouTube channel talking with Josh Morrissey. And as I mentioned to you later on, I guess 4 o'clock Winnipeg time, I'll be live for 3 hours on Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. And set your alarm or watch or a reminder if you want to join us. Adam Lowry live from the Winnipeg Jets with us on 960. Coming up at 4:30 this afternoon. Looking forward to that. All right, let's get Remo back in here. Reem, looks like the chat's been fun today. Not as many Leaf fans, but pretty cool. Have you had less to handle today from your moderator duties?
I haven't had to do anything.
Nice.
Everyone's been
Shout
great.
out to everyone. A fun Friday. Great channel.
Yeah, great Friday. Yeah, and I tweeted out from account Sports Talk WPG. A lot less Leaf fans in our chat today. I'm not sure why, but they were in here all week. And for some reason, who knows, not too many today, except for Rachel who popped in.
Shout out to Rachel.
I thought she was, I mean, as far as Leaf fans go, she's pretty respectful. So
absolutely, she was great.
We welcome all fans as long as you're being respectful. I mean, we have had some Leaf fans who just type "Go Leafs" like in caps over and over again.
As Justin Funk said, you didn't have to send anybody over the top rope in the WST chat battle royal.
No, so we're okay. Although we'll see if any marbles go over the top rope and get bounced from the race. That's
we are
upcoming.
just we are just about ready to give away our second gift certificate for the Little Brown Jug online store. Thanks to everyone that entered on our Instagram page. If you haven't already, make sure you're following us at Sports Talk WPG. Remo cranks out some great content, highlights from the shows, contesting, and more on Instagram, as well as Twitter. And as much as I hate Facebook, we do have a lot of people that are joining us through Facebook as well, Remis. And if you're not, same handle, Sports Talk WPG on FB.
Yeah, it's in, all the links are in it. If you can type it in, all the links in the description. Click them, hit like, follow. We had some good. I posted on all of them, or at least on the Instagram for sure. Shifley talking about his goats, and that was on Twitter as well.
That was such a great clip,
nicely.
Man. That was such a great.
He got really fired up. I was kind of. I wish maybe one time he can take his phone and connect and like give us a tour of the goats and
Farm 55. Follow them on Insta.
We need to see it. So yeah, that was awesome.
All right, everybody's fired up for the marble race. First, let's quickly get to our daily lines for coolbet.com and one big game in the Stanley Cup Playoffs tonight. All or nothing, Minnesota Wild at the Vegas Golden Knights, Game 7. Minnesota, a road dog of plus 148. Vegas, minus 169. And the total on this one is over under 4.5. Usually it's 5.5. The occasional game you'll get 6.5. I can't remember a 4.5, but that's where we are. Under plus 124, over on 4.5, minus 152. Remo, any lean on Game 7 tonight?
I have Vegas on my so I'm trying to bring this up. I have Vegas on my bracket. I want Minnesota to win, but I do have Vegas, so I'm still leaning Vegas. And there's the lines up there. They have tomorrow's games as well.
Yeah, decimal odds up there. And of course, the Maple Leafs, I'm seeing minus 179. It's the decimal is 1.56. Habs, home dog, plus 157 or 2.57 on the decimal. And we do have Game 1 tomorrow. Islanders, plus 148 against the Bruins, minus 169. And what's interesting, Reem, series price already up, and the Islanders, a massive underdog, plus 195. I already said I am out on ever betting against Barry Trotz's team again. If I don't like him, I'm just staying away. But at almost 2-1 against the Boston Bruins, I'm in on the Islanders for round 2.
That looks like really nice odds. I know Boston's a big favorite. Taylor Hall he's back to being Taylor Hall. He doesn't have the stink of the Sabres, stuck to him. Sorry, Buffalo, but I mean the numbers speak for themselves. They've got two very good lines, solid defense. If Tuukka Rask can be, what he's been in the past, Boston looks pretty solid. But as we've learned, as you said, do not bet against Barry Trotz in the playoffs. So, I can see Islanders. Why not throw it on the underdog there? I think I got Boston on my bracket though. So. My bracket, I've got every series correct except for the Jets series, just like Sean Reynolds said yesterday.
I had the Jets, but I did not have the Islanders, which is unfortunate.
I got to make sure that I had them.
I was in on Pittsburgh. I thought it was going to be Pittsburgh, Sid and Ovi, and maybe that was just me hoping for another battle.
I had Islanders in 7. They won in 6.
And Boston too? Nicely done.
I had Boston in 6. They won in 5.
Leafs Habs series prices are up minus 1,000 for the Leafs. Obviously, there's no value there. But if you do think that the Habs have a couple more wins, 6-1 to win the next 2 and move on to take on the Winnipeg Jets. And we also have series lines, Carolina and Tampa Bay. I'm a little surprised at this, Remo, as Carolina's the home team, had the better record. Plus 120 for this series for the Canes and minus 143 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Regardless of what the number is, though, I'm anticipating this to be one of the best series of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
That seems really, really close. As someone who's a Carolina guy, I wasn't feeling great when Marty said he likes Tampa. I mean, it's hard to go against them. They are the defending Cup champions with a lot of the same team. But, I'm fired up for the Canes after that Rod Brindamore post-game speech. So throw me on Carolina here.
I'm with you too. I think great value. I think that series really should be about a pick 'em, but Tampa's the defending champs. They will get a bump, and I think that means some good value on the Carolina Hurricanes. All right, I'll post the daily picks or the daily lines at Sports Talk WPG, and we've got a bonus code link on our Twitter, 100% if you want to bet with us at coolbet.com. Remo, what a week it's been. This has been by far our best week. The excitement around the team is unbelievable. I want to thank Scott Brown again for helping us welcome in Coach Paul Maurice and Mark Scheifele over the last couple days. And, of course, our friends at Little Brown Jug giving us a couple GCs to give away for the online store that they've relaunched, easier than ever to buy merchandise and delicious Little Brown Jug beers like Remis did earlier. Still expecting that delivery sometime this afternoon.
Yeah,
but
right
Remo, oh, you got it already.
Yeah, right here. They dropped it off during the Marty Biron interview. You gotta carry it like a '90s boombox. I got the variety pack.
The Good Times variety pack. You'll be enjoying the Hefeweizen, the Summer Lager.
Mine's see-through too.
And much more. Well, exactly.
Yeah. See-through can.
But anyways, yesterday we did a marble race of people in the chat and told everyone about the Instagram contest. And Remo, you put together all the entries from Instagram, and we have the biggest Winnipeg Sports Talk marble race of all time coming up. Fill us in. Tee it up what we're about to do here.
This is the biggest one that we've done. So we put out a contest on Instagram. You had to like the post, follow Winnipeg Sports Talk, follow Little Brown Jug, comment with your favorite moment of the Jets series versus Edmonton. A lot of people saying the Connor winner. A lot of people saying the Maurice fist bumps. A lot of people saying Wheeler taking one in the junk.
Game 3 comeback?
Game 3 comeback. Archibald was in there. There were so many. The Stasny winner. Morrissey tying goal. I mean, there's so many moments like you could have listed. So everyone is writing different ones. So I took all the people who were eligible, put them in this marble. He's got over 100 names. Then I put me, you, and the Little Brown Jug as well, like the Little Brown Jug, the thing. So
if the jug or myself, or if somehow Remis goes back to back, then we're definitely putting it in an inquiry, because we had well over 60 people in yesterday's marble race. There's more than 100 today. So if he somehow pulls it, he'll basically be the greatest marble racer of all time.
We're not eligible to win. So Winnipeg Jets 280, he got second, but he didn't get the glory of finishing first, which I got. So
that's
apologies.
Right. Winnipeg Jets 280s in the chat. 1919 good stuff, can't get enough. Well, you'll be able to get some because you, of course, won the GC yesterday. All right, we got a $30 Little Brown Jug gift cert for the online store. If you're not a drinker, you can certainly get some of the great merchandise they have as well. But this is what we're playing for. Thank you to everyone that followed us and entered on Instagram. And by the way, follow Little Brown Jug too. They got a great social media presence. But without further ado, Remis, do we have a new course? Where are we at today? What's the course for the biggest marble race of all time for WST?
Here, let me pull it up. So I was testing earlier, and there was a really good one that I test drove, and I was so good at it, but I can't find it now. So I don't remember where it is. I might have to just pick one. It was like Mountain something, but I don't know where it went.
What about the House of Pain?
That sounds bad. You like this one? Like Few Will Survive too. Sounds like a lot of people going over the top rope. So.
Well, listen, it's up to you. I'd say go for an average time, like in and around a 2-minute race somewhere if we've got. But again, You're the CTO, you're the master of the marbles, so you figure it out, and then we will start it off. But yes, the largest field of all time in the marble race to finish it up. Shout out to everyone that's hanging around with us to finish off, have a little fun at the end of the program. If you're new, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed. We'll be back every day, 1 p.m. Central, Monday to Friday. And depending on what happens with the Jets and when they're playing on the weekends, we'll probably do a few bonus shows like we did on the long weekend. But we do know we're going to have a couple days off to get ready for what will be a huge week next week. Whether it's the Habs or the Leafs, the Winnipeg Jets will be taking them on. I guess if the Habs win, the series would start in Winnipeg, one thing that we didn't really talk about, but it still does seem like the Leafs have the upper hand with Game 6 in Montreal, and if they aren't able to get the job done, another shot to eliminate the Habs at home on Monday night.
Yeah.
Remo,
So
how are we set up?
I'm set up. I picked one. I don't even remember what track I picked. Some people were
It's
showing
all random, folks.
I'm hitting it, so we will go C to toggle with this. And I was practicing test driving before. We have all the names here. I don't even. This is the final 2, so I'm gonna hit start. You see all the names in there. So let's give her. I'm gonna hit
Let's
go, okay?
give her, folks. Friday afternoon, fun Friday. We finish off the week, a legendary week, our best week ever on Winnipeg Sports Talk, with the biggest marble race of all time. Everyone bunched up early, going into, what do we call this? The Drano?
This
Into
is
the
final.
drain.
And in the top right, it
funnel.
has the current standing. So you got the top right. But I learned you can go up and down, so my directing is going to be so much better here.
Excellent. We're, it's very tight so far. Winnipeg Schnitzel, Crazy Bird. Are these the Instagram handles, by the way?
These are all everyone's Instagram handles.
Okay,
correct.
Insta follow. So if you have something different than you have in the chat, look for your IG handle. Crazy Bird, Winnipeg Schnitzel seem to be early. We've got a real, quite the breaks. John's up there. Jonathan, Braden Fleming into the top 10 right now. Crazy Bird, though, continues to lead the way. Winnipeg Schnitzel now getting up to the top. This is one heck. This is amazing, though, with so many marbles, Reem, and we know there'll be some casualties before we get in. We're still talking about the heartbreak for Cynthia and a couple of the other marbles. And the same thing was the first time when the GFL, Gregory Liverpool himself, came through, as he said, like the winner of the Preakness right at the end to win the marble race. This is a great course. We got a little bit of time here. Brooke Bird is now in first. Zach Gerbrandt in second. Matt, we just lost. Backburn is out. Big Beef 03. Great handle, by the way. Shout out to Big Beef.
So
just
we're
lost another marble somewhere, but another big funnel right now, and there has been nobody that's really distanced themselves from the field, but Jared GP49 just ahead of Braden Fleming and Zach Gerbrandt right now in the lead pack. Here we go. This is, we're getting tight. A little bit of space between our leaders and the rest of the pack. It's still Jared GP49, Braden Fleming, and Zach Gerbrandt going in. Do we have a casualty? Nope. They're still all in. Jared Gerbrandt is there. And Jared GP49 is the winner. Braden Fleming, 21 seconds. Zach Gerbrandt, third. And now the rest of the marbles come in and fill it in. Wow, an exhilarating and an amazing race considering how tight it was, Reem, throughout the entire race. But Jared GP49, the official winner of the Little Brown Jug gift certificate from our Friday marbles race here on WST.
Yeah, there's Zach Gerbrandt in chat. Says so close. I think he was.
You finished top 10 again.
I was top 10. Watch out for him. I'm a powerhouse when it comes to marbles, apparently. So.
Remo's still top 10. We need to check his marble. Might be juicing.
I can barely run this game. I don't even know if I can give my marble like better odds or anything. But Dino says top 10. Come on. I don't know. There's only one winner here, guys. Doesn't matter if you're first or last. But
yeah, we only bet outrights here. We only bet outrights for marbles. You win or you don't win. And actually, yesterday you win, but still didn't win because we gave the prize to Jets 280, who was second. Man, this is fun. Shout out to Reem, the marble race. What a great way to execute some contests. But thanks to everyone that was in the race for following and getting in with our Instagram feed. Make sure you hit up our Twitter and Facebook as well. And there's still a race. There's still one more. What happened to him? That was it'd be funny to do a slow race. You can go see. We see Jets Dog. Where did I finish? Did I even make it in the top 50? I see splits there.
Where are you, Huss?
I think I was 40. Was that 46?
The Little Brown Jug was 66.
66.
There's Eric. I see him. Larry, Eloy. Recognize a bunch of these names here. So shout out to everyone who participated. This was pretty fun to do and put all these in here just for fun. So who won?
Hustler, I'm 90 seconds. So Remis top 10, I'm bottom 10. I demand an inquiry into this, just like they do at the horse races when someone cuts off one of the horses.
Yeah, let me just see what Jared GP said was his favorite Jets moment.
Yes, that's a great way to finish off the program. And again, thanks.
He said, Morrissey to tie it up for Game 3. That was his
I
favorite
like
moment.
it. I like it. That probably wouldn't have been in the top, but certainly deserved to be
that was
in the
top
conversation. But anyways, Reem, we should get out right now because we got to get the pods up, but we also can direct everyone that's still hanging around right now. Head on over to Kenny and Rennie. The guys are going to be getting going in just a minute or two with Josh Morrissey live. And again, if you want more Jets content this afternoon, it won't be all Jets content, of course, because the show originates out of Calgary. But I'll be on from 4 to 7 with Will Nault on Sportsnet 960. And at 4:30 Winnipeg time, Adam Lowry of the Winnipeg Jets is going to join us live. So I'll tweet out a link for that. If you're not already following me, hit me up on Twitter at Hustlerama, and we'll send you the link if you want to listen online for that. But head on over, Sean, Ken, they're going to have Josh Morrissey have some fun on their YouTube channel right now. And Remo, honestly, between you and me, bud, congratulations, kicking ass. And this has been our best week yet. And I cannot wait for Monday and getting back at it with everybody here in the chat and here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.
Yeah, this was our best week we've had since we started in terms of views and podcast downloads. And you know what? The Jets didn't even play. It was kind of just a big Barry Horowitz all week talking about how great that series sweep was. So I don't know, next week maybe we'll be pulling our hair out with the team's play, or maybe we'll be some more patting on the back. We'll get to play some awesome goal calls from Paul Edmonds. But, you know, the games are going to start. We got a nice weekend. We can relax. Not going to have a Sunday game or a Saturday night game, but next week we're going to have some games. Going to be at reasonable game times, and we'll see how it goes against Toronto or Montreal. Hopefully we know. I guess it's possible we won't know by the start of Monday's show because Game 7.
Well, if the Habs win on Saturday, we'll be talking about Game 7 that night, and potentially a Wednesday, Thursday start for the series. So, anyways, everyone, have a great weekend. Although as much as you can right now with what we're going through. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Thanks so much for the support. Do us a favor. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah.
Show them how to sub on YouTube. Show them how to sub on the podcast. We continue to grow every day, but it's with the help of you that we continue to spread the word on what we're doing now that the old station shut down.
Yeah, we did get a comment on our YouTube video. It's like, I'm so glad I found this. My life is complete again. Maybe not quite like that, but something along those lines that, they had just stumbled upon, I think it was the Scheifele interview or something. So there are people out there that don't know that we've moved to this new platform. So, what you guys can do to help let people know, hit the thumbs up on the videos, like our, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram posts and pages. If after the videos are done, comment on them or comment on any other ones. Shout out to Funky But Chunky, I think he's got a record being the first comment on like 4 straight videos now, or 4 of the 5 this week. So
Funky's always wants to get in there. Maybe drop in a little more insight than first, just saying. And by the way, my favorite thing at the end of every show in the chat is Geoff Kirbyson super kicking Gregory Liverpool. Gregory's come back with the DDT, and essentially they're having a wrestling match in the chat. What a great way to finish up a Friday on the program. All right, guys, it's 3. Kenny and Rennie are going live. Head on over, check out their chat with Josh Morrissey. Remo, great week. Thanks to everyone for joining us. And of course, thanks to our sponsors, Aikens Lake, Cool Bet, Breezy Bend, Assiniboia Downs, Little Brown Jug. Have a couple of these this weekend. You will not be sorry. Nick and Nicky DQ. It's always time for a blizzard. Royal Sports. Car flag promo on right now. All the whiteout gear. Boston Pizza. And of course, not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have a great weekend. We'll be back at it Monday, getting ready for round 2 of your Winnipeg Jets in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Oh my God! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.